Hello, 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 and welcome to the chat session. It's a very interesting chat this morning because, as you can see, there's nobody here right now for me to chat with. My name is Jefferson Drexler. So I am very, very interested actually in hearing the conversation flow from you, our viewers, our listeners in the comments section. And today, as some of you may be aware of by seeing some of our little promotional efforts, we're talking about Halloween, how to participate without celebrating, or is that even a possibility? Going back into my childhood, we, okay, first of all, let's kind of set the stage. I grew up in a non denominational Christian home, 70s and 80s, and, very, very conservative, also very, very poor. But we went trick or treating. We dressed up in costumes, my brother and I, and had a blast with our friends. My parents were the type of parents who we had the Ford Pinto station wagon, and we'd load up all the kids into the back of the station wagon. And when I say all the kids, I mean not just me and my brother, but literally all the kids in the neighborhood. We were jam packed in that little uh, uh, Ford Pinto of ours, and we'd go to the nice neighborhoods of town where we could get better candy, and we would go trick or treating, and that kind of set the stage for how I perceived Halloween. It was just fun, and it was silly, and it wasn't malicious. Me and my friends weren't the types that were going out egging people or being uh, hooligans out on the street. That didn't happen. We just wanted candy, like most kids, and so that kind of set my own personal perspective on what Halloween was. And in the middle of all that, every now and then, my parents would say, "Hey, there's a harvest festival going on at this church. Let's go check that out." Or our own church one year, at least one year, it might have happened more than once. They had their own harvest festival, and they had everybody had to come in biblically themed costumes. So I went as the little drummer boy. We're being a little bit literal, and was he there at the nativity? Um, my dad, he dressed up as a doctor, and then had a little "Hello, my name is" tag that said he was Luke. And my brother, I remember he went as an angel, but he was probably like 3 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old, and there was no way he wanted to be an angel. He wanted to be a superhero. And my mom says, "No, no, no, we've got these rules. We're going as uh, biblical characters. You can't just be a superhero because there's no Superman." So he declared himself as Super Angel and went around jumping off of tall stacks of chairs the whole evening, crying out loud that he was Super Angel. Well, so those were the good old days. Those were the days long gone. Now, if you look up many reports or different criticisms or whatnot of Halloween, many say that Halloween is now the number two retail, I guess, holiday, if you will, celebration, better way to put it, in America, second only to Christmas. And so there's Christmas and Halloween, and then everything else. Is it true though? Because I did a little bit of research, and I found that in actuality, Halloween's way down on the list. It seems like it is there because it's out in front of us, and people buy Halloween costumes, and they get all the candy, and then they do all the lawn decorations. If you go to Costco right now, being the middle of October, well, it's probably already picked over, but there are incredible Halloween lawn decorations, and turning your home into a walk-through menagerie of haunts and spectacles and things, way more than Christmas even, it seems. But the truth, as and this is by several different consumer advocacy, or I shouldn't say advocacy, consumer reporting groups, including NRF, and I'm blanking right now what NRF stands for. I'm sure somebody in the comments maybe will figure that out for me. But actually, Halloween ranks far below Mother's Day, Father's Day, Super Bowl Sunday. So in actuality, there's kind of a myth that has been busted as far as our spending. That being the case, it's still right here. It's still right in front of us. And for those of us with children, it is something that we have to just make some decisions. What type of costumes are your kids going to wear or not wear? What type of activities are you going to do or not do? When you're a parent in particular, suddenly you're the one that's making all the decisions, and you're the one that's kind of like guiding what are the long-term ramifications, or what is the platform that's being set in the minds of your kids, much like my parents try to do with myself. Now, we will shift things up just a little bit for a different perspective, and one that I've grown to really be like, why didn't my parents think of that? Well, my parents didn't think of that because they didn't think about it, and that is my wife's family. Pastor's kid. If my house was very, very conservative, we were drunken alcoholics doing drugs on the corner compared to my. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Our parents were friends growing up, and we grew up at the same church. But her parents took their family out of Dodge. They said, "Look, Halloween, that has no place. Everything about the origins of Halloween and what Halloween is all about at its core. Yes, we understand some of your friends are having fun with it, doing stuff like the Drexlers used to do, but really, they would just get out of Dodge. They would go out to the apple orchards, in a town about an hour away from us, and go apple picking. They would, go out to different areas, an hour and a half away out of town, and just take the whole day. Take the kids out of school if they need to. It's grade school. They're not really going to be backed up. It's not going to go on a permanent record that they missed a day of school because of Halloween. But that's what they did, and therefore, my wife and her two siblings, as they've grown to be adults, then there's no priority on Halloween at all in their minds. They're just not even take it or leave it. Leave it. It's nothing to really be reconciled with. So Gina, our producer, if you got comments popping up because I can see there's quite a bit of discussion, so much so that it's hard for me to follow on. So if we want to bring up some of those comments as they pop up, we can actually get some of this dialogue going on, because as I'm saying, there's these foundational moments or patterns even of when we're children that help set the stage for us as adults. My wife, no Halloween at all. Me, have it. It's fun. It's silly. It's light. It's handing out free candy to kids or going out and getting candy. I worked for a pastor for a number of years, and he was quite put off by many Christians that were saying there is no way that you can have anything to do with Halloween and call yourself a convicted Christian who is following Jesus and following the Bible, because all Halloween does, even at the most minute level, is celebrate Satan. And so there's no way you can do about it. And he goes, I can't believe that you guys could be so legalistic that you're against handing out candy to your neighborhood children. Is that really the loving reputation that you want to have, is the home that says, no way, there's no way that I'm going to I'm not going to give candy at all to our neighborhood kids. And it caused me to start thinking, remembering back to when I was kids. And then I'm still Facebook friends with a lot of those kids that grew up, even at that one particular Halloween I mentioned, where at our church we all grew up or I should say we all dressed up as biblical characters to a man, pretty much to a man. Everybody thought that was kind of dumb. We have silly remembrances of, or memories of our parents, trying to kind of stretch those boundaries, or as I said, me kind of stretching a boundary a little bit, going as a little drummer boy. But really, they'd really rather not be as part of that tradition, or have that as part of their Halloween tradition. They'd rather dress up as Superman, or dress up as some sort of a hero, or who knows what else they can come up with. And that was, I should say, let's back up just an ounce, or just a half step. One of the rules that my parents did have is no monsters, nothing bloody. There's no vampires. There's no Wolfman mummy. If I was older, there'd be no Jason. There'd be no Michael. People would not dress up as Michael if they grew up in my house, because they said there's no way we're going to have that kind of gruesome twosome type of stuff going on. Michael, how did you grow up as far as Halloween goes? Did you guys celebrate? Did you dress up? What kind of a priority was it in your house growing up?
Surprise, everyone! I'm here. Hello. Growing up, oof, boy, that is a loaded question. Because I never.
Because you never grew up.
Yeah.
Rim shot.
Let's just say my childhood. Gosh, how do I say this without taking 3 hours just to talk about my my upbringing. I moved a lot and bounced between parents multiple times. Let's just put it this way. I went to 6 different schools for high school in 3 different states and still graduated in 4 years. And that's just, I had a very unstable upbringing. So for Halloween, my mom was a Christian. So when I lived with her, we were under, it was different. And my dad was not a Christian. But I never got I was never told Halloween is evil. Don't participate. I didn't get that until after, I became a Christian when I was 18 and started going to church every time the doors were open. Even went to a Bible college, and when and I still moved around a lot, and I was exposed to that mentality of this is the high holy satanic holiday. We should have nothing to do with it, right? So that's there's one side would say, it's just this cultural thing, go have fun. Another side would say it's the number one day when children are abducted, stuff like that. And I don't know if that statistic is true or is still true. So your question was, what was your question?
Was basically, do you have Halloween memories, or were there, as far as even being bounced around in the witness protection program as you were there Halloween memories that you have of kind of how you guys did it? I won't say celebrated, but did it.
I remember I think this is probably the first Halloween I remember. I remember collecting some cardboard boxes, getting some spray paint, and making a robot outfit. And I even had a little drawer. You put the candy in and it would come inside the box. And I think it turned out okay. But so that, and I do remember that wasn't in my memory of building that costume. I do remember that it wasn't me going, wow, this is the first time I've had Halloween. So I must have had Halloweens before then, but this is the first one I remember. And I didn't ever get any of those cautionary tales or anything as a kid, and so it wasn't until later on. So my take. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, go ahead. I want to hear your take.
All right, let's see. So I don't know what your take is. My take is we are in the world, not of the world. And Paul also says, I become all things to all men. And I think that says a lot more than we realize when he says that. I think he was discerning what is sin and what is not. Like he's having to admonish Peter for saying, oh, no, I can't hang out with the Gentiles because, or whatever. And so Paul's like, you are wrong about some things that you think are wrong, right? You think these things are wrong, but you're wrong about them being wrong. And so I think people will go overboard. The extremes are, if you're saying, Halloween's nothing, just go have fun, then you are ignorant of evil in the world. But if you're on the other extreme saying, oh, if you participate in Halloween, you are disobeying God and you are a servant of Satan. And I think that's total insane, right? That's insanity to say that. The origins of things, I don't know the origins. Like, yeah, there's the harvest festival, and then there's the pagan sacrificial whatever they used to do, and so they're kind of merged. And so I guess I'm not really giving a satisfying answer. I have not. Go ahead.
And I think that is kind of the conundrum that especially those of us who are parental age here in the 21st century, that's kind of the dilemma that we're caught with. It doesn't seem to be quite binary, and because we do realize that it's possible to have your kids have a blast with their friends, dress up as the Avengers, and then run around the street. Typically when we do it, it's me and many of the adults. We just kind of truck in the middle of the street, keeping an eye on where the kids are, try to keep them kind of herded. It's like herding kittens. Little kids have a much different experience. We'll say little, like kindergarten and under, have a completely different experience than those who are in the third, fourth grade, who are those compared to those who are in the maybe even junior high age. Once they get into high school, now it's completely different. You get the
Yeah.
freshman year, it's awkward. They're not driving, they can't go to a real party. And then at that point, hopefully, you've raised them in such a way they can identify what's appropriate, what's not, what is holy, what is blasphemous, what is good, what is evil. And so in those early years, I view it as a situation of that's where we lay the foundation. That's where we plant the seeds. We tell them, like in my house, we say, look, no, you're not dressing up as anything evil. You're not dressing up as, the girl from The Ring. One, because you're a boy, and we'll say that for a whole different episode. But but my point is we lay the foundations for what is good, what is evil, kind of like what you're saying, Michael. And then we don't condemn what's not in that evil stack. We condemn what is truly evil, but going around and playing with your friends and dressing up like the Hulk is not necessarily evil. I'm guessing by some of your nodding, you agree.
Sorry, I do nod a lot when I can't hide my agreement. Well, think about it. Outside of Halloween, kids dress up and pretend and play anyway, right? And so that's the official day to do it, right? But they're doing it all the time anyway. Now, yes, the dark themes, the demonic stuff, is not becoming of a Christian, but at the same time, we should not judge those who do, right? Those who are participating in that. They're getting caught up in. I mean, let me be honest. I like a good horror movie, and I actually believe God uses horror movies. I really, really do. I mean, the Bible's full of a lot of horror, right? Is it King Saul? My Bible every morning show I do every morning, and we're going through 1 Samuel, and we just got introduced to Saul. And that's not me. That's a police officer about to pull somebody over.
Oh yeah, here. Let's look at Jacqueline. Gene, if you might bring that up. Jacqueline says, young children do not know about the evil until they're taught. Yeah. So we have to teach what God says, and a costume party can be fun anytime. I think that is the key, Jacqueline, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is it's not like all things over there are good, all things over there are evil. Only go over to the good, avoid all the evil, and because I say so. We have to be able to teach our children how to process and discern what is good and evil, because as they grow, they're going to experience these things that seem to be good but are truly evil, or seem to be evil, and Michael, as you're saying, that are not necessarily purely evil. There's actually true biblical lessons even in some of those dark tales. You and I being in the entertainment industry and knowing faithful people in the industry know that when you're being creative, you have to create in all the colors, including the dark ones. Sorry, Mike, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, but we need to teach our children the contrast. It is more evil to force someone to use words that don't reflect reality, right? My pronouns are, and if you don't use my pronouns, you go to jail, right? That's more evil than a kid wearing a Satan mask. Seriously, that's more evil than a kid walking up to your door, knocking on the door, asking for candy with a Satan mask on. So
even more delusional as well.
We need to keep things in perspective. God is in control, and everybody is responsible for their own response to that, their own actions. And so the example I was using, because I think talking about horror movies may be a perfect tie in with this. So I was just reading Saul, and we're about to come to that point where he goes. Actually, it's a few chapters away. He goes to the witch of Endor, or the seer, or the prophetess, or whatever she was, the witch at Endor, to communicate with the dead, right? Communicate with the dead. This is Halloween, and those themes are all through our culture, etc. And it's a real thing. And so we need to make sure our kids understand there are demonic forces, and there are the righteous dead. And God has made a way for us to have a relationship with the dead through him, right? It's like Hebrews chapter 11 is the faith hall of fame. All of the righteous dead who have gone before us. And then Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says, we are surrounded by them. In other words, if you think of the Mount of Transfiguration as Jesus pulling back the veil and showing Peter, James, and John that the dead people are around them. Like, here's Moses and Elijah. These are dead people, and they're around you all the time, but you can't see them, and you shouldn't reach out to them, but through me, right? I mean, and so they are in Christ as we are in Christ. I went on a tangent here, but let's get back to horror movies. So I'm gonna confess. Well, before I confess this, I'm going to give an example of a godly horror movie, a horror movie that upholds Christian principles. There's one called, and this is my favorite, the Exorcism of Emily Rose. All right, that movie was directed by a Christian, written and directed by a Christian.
Asterisks here. It's not that we're endorsing for all of you to put these movies on family movie night. No.
No. Some people just can't ever watch a horror movie, and I get that. My wife is one of them. There's genres that she cannot tolerate. I may be going through a bad cell zone here, so if I disappear and then come back, tell me where I left off. So the Exorcism of Emily Rose is actually based on actual events, and exorcisms are real. Exorcisms really happen, and we have authority over demons. And so the reason I bring this point up, very important point, is that if you partake of a horror movie that maybe isn't from a Christian point of view, you as a Christian should be able to withstand it and properly interpret it and communicate it to those who don't understand it. So if I go to a horror movie with my son, which I may or may not have done, anytime I do that, am I breaking up?
No, you're good. You're good.
Am I breaking up? Can you hear me? Okay,
no,
I think I got through that zone.
Yeah.
All right, so here I'm going to confess, and boy, I hope we don't lose the audience. My son and one of his good friends like to go to movies, and being October, there's more horror movies right now than other movies, and so I've gone to a couple with them. And there's one, and I won't give the name of it, that talks about a demonic force that is transferred, right? It causes a person to commit suicide, and then it transfers to somebody who watched that person commit suicide, etc. Right? And so watching it, okay, it's an interesting premise, and it's predictable, and the cinema, I work in the industry, so I'm always watching it, how well the story is told and how the production value is, as well as covering my eyes during the, coming jump scares. So I'm fully immersed in there. And then afterwards, I'm telling my son, you understand that there are demons, but they don't have that power, right? That they can't do that. And you, as one who is possessed, right? You are possessed as a Christian. You are possessed by a spirit, right? You are possessed by a spirit, and that spirit, every other spirit out there is terrified of the spirit that possesses you. Real demonic forces, the Elohim that inhabit people, are terrified of the spirit that inhabits you. You have nothing to fear ever. And that's the message I communicate to them, right? There's nothing to fear. Just like getting on a roller coaster, right? There's some restraints in there, and you're going to be excited and terrified, but you have nothing to fear.
So here's what Kathy has to say. Y'all, which I'm guessing Kathy's not from Seattle. So she says, y'all may have lost me on this subject, but being newly reformed, I'm excited about celebrating Reformation Day this year. And it is on the same day as Halloween anyway. And it is worth celebrating. 100% I agree, Kathy. And
nice.
Kind of, I want to tie this in with another comment that came in earlier. It was from Kathy also, where she said, hide your children away from Hollywood anyway. Some others are saying, hide your children away from Halloween. And I totally understand it. I understand the aspect of fill your mind with everything that is holy, not with that which is evil, or even with its roots in evil. I understand it. I also understand that I've been surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of kids who grew up in the same church that I did, or in the same church environments that I did, whose parents did take that tactic of, look, we're just going to completely ignore all of that, turn a blind eye to it, and it doesn't even exist in our world. And then they grow up and they have no skill set on how to deal with these things in our world. And suddenly they're now 45, 50-year-old people who can't even turn on the news or discuss with their children today's current events, because it's just too hard to deal with. There's too much evil out there. There's too much darkness. There's too much bad news. And now their kids are ill prepared on how to deal with life.
How are you going to reach people, right? If you don't go where they are, right? If you don't go where they are, if you don't, and obviously it's not participating in the Satan worship or anything like that, right? How are you going to reach people? Here's an example. So at my church, there was a guy, I don't know where he is. Well, actually, he's a friend of my pastor. So he wasn't a member of our church. He came to visit. And when I learned what his ministry was, it was shocking. So this guy, he was personal friends with Ron Jeremy. Do you know who Ron Jeremy is?
No. Who is this guy? I would never heard that name before in my life, Michael.
All right. So for those who don't, I know you do. So this guy was personal friends. So it's the adult entertainment industry, right? Those people who use their bodies to make money. This guy had a ministry to them. He would go to Vegas every year when they would have their convention, right? Adult film entertainment, adult products, adult stuff, a convention of all of that in Las Vegas every year. That was where he would go to minister. He would go in among them, and he ministers to young people who are addicted to that kind of stuff. And he goes and he ministers to those girls who sell their bodies, right? He's exposed to it. He has to walk around. He has to see it. He has to be immersed in it. He's not consuming it. He's not renting it. He is not of the world. He is in the world. So if you shelter people from evil, they are ill-equipped and ill-prepared to handle it. And so we need to, and
that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I knew a guy too, a pastor who I spent some time with a number of years ago, and his ministry was he would go to usually there's one particular one that he called his chapel, but there was a couple local bars. And he said, it's amazing what kind of discussions you can get going once people have a drink or two or three or four in them, which is absolutely true. People come loose-lipped as they drink more. But then
it's a truth serum.
Yeah. But here's the problem, man. Whether it's a matter of going to Vegas, whether it's a matter of hanging out at the bar, or whether it's a matter of going trick-or-treating and participating in Halloween things, if you follow Jesus's examples, exactly as you're saying, he went to these sinners and had dinner with them. He did not shy away, did not seclude himself away from them. And he told his disciples to do likewise. The difference is, while Matthew had his tax collector friends over, they didn't then have an accounting party and start, going door to door, pulling people's taxes from them. It was a situation that Jesus and his disciples, and the lessons that we are supposed to take from that is, yes, we are supposed to go to the world, influence the world, but we don't enjoy in that evil. So we can do that by going trick-or-treating, taking our kids trick-or-treating, not dressing up as totally evil things, but dressing up as superheroes or robots that made out of cardboard boxes or whatever it may be, and keeping our kids with that knowledge of what is good, what is evil, what is stuff that you're supposed to surround yourself with and fill your mind with, and yet what is stuff that you say, nope, that's evil, that's what God stands against, and I need to know the enemy, so therefore I'm not going to participate in the enemy's deals, but I am going to know what it is and be able to know what the Bible has against it, so I can be knowledgeable and proactive. as I grow. And that's what I'm hoping for my kids, is that as they grow older, they will understand that. Hey, thank you all so much for watching. Michael, thanks for jumping in. This is This Way Network. Be sure to check us out every single week and have fun on Halloween, whatever you do.
Good to see you, Jefferson, and just love one another.
It's really that